Mr. Pocan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry about that. I'm making a mess here. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here. Congress established the Pell Grant as the main investment in college affordability for low and middle income students, but today the Pell Grant has the lowest purchasing power in more than its 50-year history. We've seen rising pressure on Pell funding in recent years due to increases in the maximum award, more people returning to college, and more students becoming eligible. Recent analysis from the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget found that without significantly increased funding, smaller awards, tighter eligibility, or some combination of the above, the Pell reserves could be exhausted by 2026, possibly sooner. Can you just discuss the resources that will be required to double the maximum Pell Grant by 2029 and maintain the Pell Grant solvency without cutting award size, rolling back recent expansions like the year-round Pell, or narrowing grant eligibility?
Thank you. Pell really is a lifeline for so many in our country. There are students whose reliance on Pell will determine whether or not they have access to chasing their dream and filling out their potential. And I believe, Congressman Pocan, that we are not meeting our country's potential because we have a system that's broken, as I said before. Increasing Pell, supporting Pell is a big part of that. It really is, when we talk about leveling the playing field and making sure that education is the great equalizer, the Pell Grant is a huge lever for that. In 1979, it covered 80% of the cost of attending a four-year college. Let that sink in. 80% was covered by Pell. Today, that number is about 31%. So number one is not keeping up, but the president's increase would bring it up to $8,145, which is an increase of $750 per student per year. To me, increases are going to be needed in order to ensure solvency. So that is an ask that we have. I can tell you it's more, every year it's more and more important. And while we're going to work on accountability and improving the return on investment in higher education, because that's part of the broken system, we recognize that without supporting Pell, the increase in Pell, we're basically just exacerbating gaps in our country that exist now.
Well, thank you. And as a Pell recipient myself, I wouldn't probably have been able to go to a public even university, much less some other universities, without that help. So I'm glad that we're doing the effort to double Pell Grants. So thank you for that. And also, just because of time, thanks for the new initiatives that you all are proposing. The president announced in my district on Monday, again, to help people who are repaying loans. I think having people automatically fall into some of the programs rather than having to apply is extremely efficient in going after those predatory colleges that took advantage of people. Your fiscal year 25 budget requests a $22 million increase for the Office of Civil Rights to better respond to rising discrimination complaints. In your testimony, you highlighted anti-Semitism and anti-Arab discrimination as key areas of concern, and I agree. I also want to make sure we're paying close attention to the rising threats to the LGBTQI plus students and prioritizing their rights and protections as well. A recent recent Washington Post analysis found that in states with anti-LGBTQ laws, the number of hate crimes targeting those students in K-12 schools has more than quadrupled, while advocates report that calls to the LGBTQ youth crisis hotlines have exploded. Will you commit to ensuring that your efforts to address discrimination in schools will also prioritize rising threats to LGBTQI plus students? And do you believe the additional funds you've requested for OCR will be sufficient to meet this growing need?
Thank you for that question, and I wholeheartedly agree with you that there's been an increase in threats and exclusionary behaviors for students who are LGBTQ, and I need those students to hear directly from me that they should come as they are, and they should feel as welcome as the next student in their school. They should feel a sense of belonging, a sense of being a part of something bigger than them in order for them to reach their potential. Again, all means all. We need to stand up for the students who are being marginalized. Look, we're asking for a $22 million increase. And this will go 90% of this will go directly towards investigations. And let me tell you, since 2009, our complaints to the Office for Civil Rights have tripled, while we've lost 58 people due to budgets. So that tells you the issue that we're dealing with here. All students deserve dignity and respect, and the Office for Civil Rights is ready. The budget proposal that we have here will really help us move forward, not only with our students who are LGBTQ, but also the rise in anti-Semitism and the rise in anti-Arab and anti-Muslim sentiment that we're seeing as well.
Well, and thank you for that. And just, as rising rhetoric, even in the halls of Congress on this issue, I think the reality, I just want people to remember, is kids are getting not just beat up and threatened, but suicides are rising among youth. And it's just really important we all keep that in mind when we talk about these issues. Thank you. And I yield back, Mr. Chairman.